Eric texted me a little while ago saying that he left work yesterday feeling not so good, and he's just been resting in bed all day. He's got a pending test result. I don't know whether he thinks he has COVID or not, but he didn't think he'd probably be on tonight. So
Okay.
we are waiting on Tessa. Do we think Tessa's joining us, Preston?
I haven't heard from Tessa. Has anybody else?
No.
We could probably get started, I suppose.
I think that's a good thought, Mayor.
Then on that note, I will call this special meeting of the Ridgway Town Council to order Thursday, November 19, 2020, and ask for a roll call, please.
Councilmember Cheek is absent. Councilmember Grambly,
I'm here.
Lakin,
Here.
Meyer,
Here.
Schuyler,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson is absent. Mayor Clark.
Thanks, everybody.
Here comes Tessa.
Cool. All right, Tessa, we just did roll call, so welcome. So we have the usual, even though this is a special meeting, we have the usual public comment section. Establish time for a public to address council on any item not otherwise on the agenda. I don't see a lot of public here, but anybody have something they want to address us about? Please raise your hand if you do. Okay, seeing none, I will move on to policy matters. We've got two policy matters to check off our list and then dive into the budget workshop. So item number one is resolution 20-14, closing certain facilities based on Uray County status on the state of Colorado's COVID-19 dial. Preston?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Pretty self-explanatory. Didn't pen a memo for this, but before you is a resolution that, if approved, would close town hall to the public when Uray County status on the COVID dial is in level orange, which is safer at home, high risk, level red, stay at home. And it's not, this isn't indicated in the resolution before you, but just the other day, the state came out with level purple, which is the newest level. They chose purple because black is a little ominous, if you ask me. So I'm glad they chose purple. So if you all want to entertain approving the resolution, I would recommend that any sort of motion add the level purple, if that makes sense. So, and this is pretty much in line with what the city of Uray and Uray County are doing. Their boards had similar discussions earlier in the week, maybe just yesterday.
I think that's correct. Okay, thanks, Preston. Any questions from council? Somebody want to make the motion with the noted change?
I move we approve resolution number 20-14 with the addition of level purple as a closed status for Ridgway facilities.
Okay, great. Is there a second?
Second.
Russ seconds. Any other discussion? Hearing none, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Council members Cheek,
Aye.
Grambly,
Aye.
Lakin,
Aye.
Meyer,
Aye.
Schuyler.
Aye.
All right, that's unanimously. Thank you. That takes us to item number 2, discussion and direction regarding the rescission of emergency restrictions on burning and fires within the town of Ridgway. Preston.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. So Uray County just, I think 2 days ago now, rescinded their stage 1 fire restrictions. So thought, after talking with Sheriff Perry and Glenn Boyd and some others at the unified command level, thought this would be a good opportunity to bring this information to you all, even though I think you guys are privy to it, but see if there was an appetite for doing the same thing here in Ridgway, since we are still in stage 1.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I'm glad we stayed in stage one as long as we did, but I think at this point we're probably safe relatively. Any other comments or questions from council?
Agreed.
It was nice we stayed as tight as we did for the last month or two.
Yeah.
You know, but this could be good socially too. You know, a good trash can fire to get a few people together in the cold.
I need us to get a little less crazy before I feel cool with that. But yes, I agree that if we can kind of stabilize some outdoor safer options would be awesome.
Great. All right, somebody want to make a motion to that effect?
I'll move. What is it to
rescind the,
rescind the emergency restrictions on burning fires within the town of Ridgway?
yeah, I think that's good enough, right, Preston?
Sir.
Second.
Okay. Russ seconds. And any other discussion? Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilors Cheek,
Aye.
Grambley,
Aye.
Lakin,
Aye.
Meyer,
Aye.
Schuyler.
Aye.
Okay, takes care of those two things. Thank you, everybody. All right, so that takes us to our previously scheduled items on the agenda, which is the budget workshop. And since there isn't a name on this, Preston and Pam, I'll let you guys just take it from here.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. So I'll kind of kick it off and I'll share my screen in a second, but I forgot to mention at the forefront, and I don't think it's that big of a deal. We can do it at the end because it is budget related. I'd like to have a conversation about our coronavirus relief fund spending plan that we need to communicate to DOLA about by end of day tomorrow. And so I have a plan developed, and I just want to make sure that you all are fine with it. Obviously, we can tweak it and stuff, but I think it's fine if we kind of hold that maybe towards the end once we get through everything. Does that sound okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Let someone shout out when they see my PowerPoint.
Yep.
Good.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. So thanks for indulging me. And a lot of you, or I guess all of you, were at the budget retreat last month. So a lot of these slides will look familiar, but definitely want to reiterate some of this stuff. And there is some newer information on here. So kind of the agenda for this budget workshop, just want to give a little overview of the budget adoption process and how we've gotten to this point. And then I'll turn it over to Pam to give a financial overview and follow up on council requests for information, direction on stuff, and then have council talk through the budget and provide the members of the public the opportunity to comment. And then we'll round everything out with a review of the funding requests that have been received to date. And then following that, just review and maybe some general direction on the draft 2021 strategic plan. And then I guess after that, I just mentioned the spending plan for the coronavirus relief fund that I don't think should take too long to review. So the purpose of the budget document, thanks for indulging me. I'll kind of say some stuff that I think many of us already know. The whole point is to meet legal requirements. Deficit spending isn't allowed per state budget law, and usually in charters across the land. So that's really important to recognize. The budget document pretty clear on projected revenues and expenditures for all the various funds, and then it is meant to prioritize objectives, strategies, and it identifies a work plan for the coming year, which I think is important, and that ties into the strategic plan. This should look familiar. It's a slide from the budget retreat. It's copied and pasted right out of the charter of the town of Ridgway. It's kind of the guiding verbiage in relation to the budget and details the minimum requirements for the budget and the budget adoption process each year. I won't go through it line by line, but pretty straightforward and very common. So to summarize how we've gotten to this point, back in late August and through early September, I believe it was, we held a variety of meetings with town staff to understand where we're at, where we were at in the current fiscal year, to understand needs and wants for the next fiscal year. Excuse me. Really good meetings, and that led to the formulation of the proposed budget that was presented to council on October 14th to meet statutory requirements. Not a whole lot of discussion during that meeting, if any at all. But again, the whole point was to get it before you all and get your eyes on it again to meet that requirement. And then we had I thought it was a really great budget retreat on October 17th, nearly exactly a month ago, where we had robust conversation about the various funds, the capital projects or capital improvements plan. And again, just a very detailed presentation from Pam on all three funds. We had a council meeting last Wednesday, I believe it was, where Pam gave another presentation or overview of the budget and followed up on various items, not only in all three funds expenditure wise, but in the capital improvements plan. And that brings us to tonight, November 19th, in this workshop setting. And you all obviously have the agenda before you. I already went over it, but this is one of the final forums for input before the December 9th budget hearing, where the budget is slated for adoption in addition to the capital projects plan and the 2021 strategic plan. That's also when the mill levy will be certified. This slide should look familiar too. This kind of just details approach given, excuse me, given where we're at here in 2020, one of the best years ever. And with COVID, the COVID-19 pandemic kind of still upon us, and maybe for a while longer. So I think it's important to balance core operation expenses with conservative revenue projections. I remember vividly, I think it was Mayor Pro Tem Johnson made a comment at the last meeting about how conservative this budget is in relation to budgets he's seen in the past. Well, I think we spent quite a bit of time at the budget retreat going over why that is, and COVID-19 is a big part of that. But definitely want to make sure we ensure long-term fiscal stability and at the same time provide for a really high level of service delivery. I think everyone does a great job around here providing the services that we're tasked with providing, and we definitely want to maintain that at a high level. And then the last bullet there is establish reserves necessary to meet known and unknown future obligations. So this, I think some of this information will bleed over into what Pam will talk about here just in a minute. But this is kind of a financial overview of the general fund and just paints a picture about with highlighting those major figures, beginning fund balance, projected, of course, general fund revenues, total available resources, general fund expenditures, and then the projected ending general fund balance, which for the general fund, I think is definitely on par and above what you saw in the 2020 budget. This slide, again, should look familiar. It's changed a little bit based on us honing in some figures and getting some more pieces in place. Tabor requires a 3% emergency reserve be called out in the budget. You'll see in that little spreadsheet, we've called it out in the budget at over $90,000 as a percentage, or it's a percentage against general fund expenditures. And then couple that with the additional fund balance. The total reserve in the general fund is north of 25%, which I think is very healthy. So again, just wanted to paint that picture for you all. Stop me at any time if you have questions. Similar overview, but for the water fund with a projected ending fund balance of $962,731. Again, these amounts should correlate with the budget before you. Same goes for the sewer fund with that projected ending sewer fund balance when all is said and done. Want to highlight some personnel elements that I think we briefly went over during the budget retreat. I don't know that we covered much of anything personnel wise during the council meeting last week, but just across all three funds, the percent against total operating expenditures is 36%, just north of 36%, which Pam and I were talking about this just a little while ago. We believe that to be on the low side compared to most municipalities. We were going to try to dig up some statistics, but excuse me, we haven't had the opportunity to do that. We can certainly try to do that for the next meeting, but just wanted to, I say this a lot, but paint that picture about what the personnel expenditure across all expenditures in the budget is. We're not requesting any new personnel for the 2021 fiscal year. And the marshal and the marshal's office, they're currently looking to fill the part-time deputy position that has been vacant for a little bit of time now since Abby departed. So looking forward to understanding what, well, we've have several candidates to the best of my knowledge at this point, and I'll be working with Shane soon to see how we can get that position filled. Looking right now at revising some job descriptions here, namely the Public Works Services Administrator and the Town Planner. Looking at title and essential functions, really the whole point's to we're really looking at it for purposes of efficiency and organizational structure. So trying to do that work now, and then for this next year, we have 4 full-time seasonal parks positions budgeted, as well as a full-time seasonal intern position. This should look similar. Sales tax. This slide is really meant to highlight sales tax. The proposal is a 10% decrease from the originally adopted 2020 budget. COVID-19 has a lot to do with that. His slide cites, just one element of the reasoning. The Colorado General Fund is projected to decrease by over 11% in their fiscal year budget, which is 2020-2021, and then it's projected to grow by 8.8% in fiscal year 2021-2022. So that's that fiscal year, July 1 to June 30. Again, fiscal year. Pam and I, we didn't stumble across this, but we thought it'd be good to share this with you all. There's a couple late ads in the Dropbox folder. One of them, I don't remember, I think it says state and local government revenue information. It highlights that projected state and local sales tax here in Colorado is estimated to decline 10% in 2021 and 9% and decline 9% in 2022. So, and then this last slide is, it hasn't changed from the last time you saw it at the budget retreat. It's meant to depict revenues versus the original budget. And as you can see, steady growth over the last five years going into to the end of 2019. And obviously it's leveled off this year, and sales tax has been above what was originally projected, but not to the level that other years have seen. So again, this is very similar to what, well, exactly the same as to what you all saw last month. And that's the end of my presentation. I'll turn it over to Pam.
Thanks, Preston.
All right, in your packet, I have placed the draft 2021 fiscal year budget for all funds, including capital projects. The 5-year capital improvement project sheets and the 10-year capital improvement project sheets. A list of line item locations of expenditures and a list of line item locations of revenues that are already contained within this draft budget. I also inserted a memo showing the fund balances, the ending fund balances as they are right now for that draft budget. And I wanted to call out for you the water fund, just because I know in past years you've had this discussion and concerns about those ending fund balances. So I did set out the last 5 years so you can see how it's trended since those water rates have increased. We can start with the 5-year capital and 10-year capitals. Those documents are highlighted for items that are included in the draft budget. Items that are included in this budget and are within the document already are in the line item locations of expenditures. So those items may be small, may be larger, but they help to track, for us to track internally where they're located within the budget. The only change that has occurred since the last time we discussed the budget was at the last meeting. I brought to council the improvement project sheets and asked if there were any other items that council wanted to include in this budget. And they were items that are shown on the first page of the 5-year capital improvement project sheet, which is engineering and surveying for Lena Street, and to create a reserve account for the construction of Lena Street. So that is designated to place $200,000 into a reserve account or a savings account held aside for that project. That dollar amount is located in your budget document on page 7 at the end of the general fund. Underneath the general fund expenditures, there are transfers to capital projects. And that is where that line item has been placed, that $200,000 in the 2021 adopted budget. All other items that are on those sheets are actually located within the budget document itself already. To track where those items are, you would go to the memo that talks about line item locations of expenditures. So you can actually see where those monies were placed within the budget. There are a few items in the budget that are still highlighted, very few. One is the property tax. That is because we get final numbers from the county assessor the 1st of December. So we will once again assess our mill levy. And if there's any changes, it will be noted on the budget that comes to council for final adoption. Very rarely has that exceeded more than $100 one way or another. And the only other items that we have highlighted in the budget that we're waiting on are in the water and sewer fund. I'm just waiting to hear on some reimbursements and some tap fees for 2020. So once I get those, I'll have final numbers in both of those funds. And the other is in the Space to Create project, because we're waiting to hear back on some amounts that were paid directly to Art Space. And we need to see how that's going to work through our grant process. So that is the budget in front of you. I can go through each fund if you'd like. We have the ending fund balances that we could look at if you'd like to. On the memo that I gave you, it shows you the location within the budget. I know that is something that council works at targeting to make sure those ending fund balances are healthy. And I think we've done a really good job this year with those numbers. So I guess at this point, I would ask if council has any questions and we could start working on documents.
Anybody have any comments or questions?
I just had one quick question. And looking at the capital project fund for the park pavilion, I'm seeing that the total expenditures are about 20K over the revenues that came in for that. Who's picking up the rest of that? Is that not on us, I assume?
Russ, that's a multi-year project. So, look here.
We just don't have anything set up for next year.
Right, so see, in the prior year, we had some donations and some expenditures.
Mhm.
Is it still over? Let me look.
So the estimated year end, the expenditures are about 23,200 more.
Right, are you, and you've taken into account what was expended in 2019?
No,
Okay, let me look at the number here.
that's about 24. That's pretty close. That'll probably get it there.
Excuse me?
I said that will probably get it there.
Oh, okay, great. Okay,
Okay,
thanks.
sure.
Yeah, just a point of clarification, it's the budget isn't over on that, but the town did commit to doing a certain amount of in-kind work. And there is a certain amount of cost that has come with that in terms of just buying some materials that we need to be able to do that in-kind work. So there has been a little bit of a cost, direct money from the town for those items, but pretty minimal.
Okay,
So Russ, I just worked those numbers out and the revenues and expenditures both equal 491,911.
okay. No, I wasn't looking at the 2019, I was just looking at 2020. So that makes sense. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Quick comment, there are very few things in yellow highlight. That's huge, I would imagine.
What's
Congratulations.
that, Terry?
Said very few things that are highlighted in yellow. Congratulations.
Oh, right.
We like that.
This document, as you're seeing it, is pretty much ready to come to the next meeting. There's a few things that we're still waiting on. Like I said, I still need to get some final numbers on some tap fees and some reimbursables in the water and sewer fund. And we're going to have a conversation today about the CARES Act. So those numbers will be reflected in here. You're not seeing those now, but they will be a wash. So all revenues and expenditures will equal each other. So there won't be a change in the ending fund balance because of those.
Anybody else have questions or comments? Including anybody in the audience? I know one of the things that we usually spend quite a bit of time discussing around this point is the council initiatives section of the budget. Take a look at those numbers a little more closely and make sure that they're in line with what we think. Pam, if I'm correct, the numbers that you plugged in for the 2021 adopted budget for each of those is what they're requesting.
Yes, and I've included in the packet all those request letters if
Right, document
you
03.
had a chance to look at them.
Right.
So yes, that I just take the request amount and put that into that budget. So that's why this budget is still draft at this point. Council can and probably will review each of those requests and discuss them, and then I'll make the appropriate changes within the budget document. You'll see that when it comes back to you in December.
Okay. If you're ready for us to talk about that? I have some questions.
Sure, we're ready.
I can't remember why the Uray County Soccer Association, just starting with that, because the 2020 line is all zeros, and I feel like they requested the usual 2 or 3 grand for 20, and did they just never ask for it because of the season not being the same with COVID, or what? Or is my memory mistaken on that?
I don't remember, John. I'd have to go back in to look and see that.
Just curious about that. I don't know.
John, what I recall on that is that we as a town were donating a lot of time and resources to building a beautiful pavilion, and part of their, I feel like part of the discussions of that, they had said, you know what, we're not going to ask for money this year because we realize we're getting a lot from you guys, from the town in that pavilion and all the work that's going to it. So hopefully I'm remembering that right, but I think that's why there was, yeah.
That's how I recall it, Shay.
Great.
It just shows how poor my memory is. That makes total sense. I guess the next one I would raise is the Second Chance. Second Chance always asks for quite a bit more than what we historically end up giving them. I want to make sure I'm very, very clear that we highly value the services and what Second Chance Humane Society does for the community. But they tend to kind of do a outline of what they think we should be paying based on some of the things they do. And our feeling has always been that, we need to spread our funds out a little more than that. When you look at that number compared to everything else, even though we have some 5, 6, and 7, an $8,000 item on there, theirs is always, 2 or 3,000 above anything else. And I think we should consider maybe lowering that and increasing some others. I'll leave that there for now. I'm happy to see that we always try and have like a other contribution line have a pretty healthy balance. At 5,000 is what we had in it for 2020, and we ended up, looks like we're going to only end up spending 871 of that. So that 5,000 number again is good, I think. Let's see, there were a couple others that had jumped quite a bit. Let's see.
Excuse me, where's the roll-up on this? I've been staring at computer screens all day.
It's page 3 of the budget under general fund, council initiatives. It's the major section on page 3, 501 through 5010 GO1 through 5138 GO1.
See it. Okay, thank you.
Page 3, and council initiatives has a subtotal amount. So you'll see in 2019, council initiatives were expended at 54,700. And then in 2020 adopted budget, you adopted the budget at 54,950. And right now in 2021, it's at 68,766.
Pam, your volume is cutting in and out for some reason.
Oh, would you like me to say that again?
Just the last bit that you said.
Okay, I just was bringing to your attention the subtotal of council initiatives. It actually has its own subtotal. And in 2019, the actual expenditures were 54,700. And in 2020, you adopted at 54,950. And this draft budget for 2021 has 68,766 right now.
Yeah, quite a bit more. So yeah, I think we need to talk about that, obviously. Eco Action Partners has gone up a chunk, 1,200. Obviously, Second Chance is a big jump.
CAIC asking for an extra 1,500 is interesting.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I mean, there's a part of me that's like, backcountry recreation is going to be huge this year in light of COVID and they need to do outreach, but an extra 1,500 seems like too much.
Yeah, I could see jumping to 2,000 from 1,000, but not necessarily all the way to 2,500. And I don't know, anybody else have thoughts?
It seems to me this is generally reflective of the position most people are in right now, which is they're struggling for funding.
Yep. And like looking at the next two highest amounts are for juvenile diversion in the Voyager program. Voyager's been at 7,000 for the last 2 years. Juvenile diversion, we budgeted a little bit more for them last year, but it looks like they're gonna only end up taking 8,000. So, I mean, I'm comfortable with both of those, especially,
The council
Feeling-
does have an agreement with juvenile diversion.
okay,
I don't believe it was last year. I think it was the year before that. They came to you and said they needed a long-term commitment. They were getting a long-term commitment from all their funding sources. San Miguel County, Town of Telluride, City of Ouray. And so you made a commitment to them on that amount.
okay.
Then Pam, does that actually belong in council? I mean, not to make work for you, but doesn't that make it more of, I don't know, somewhere else in the budget versus at our discretion?
No, because it's actually council is supporting this program. I think that your commitment was only for a number of years. I mean, it wasn't like long-term, like, I don't think it was 5 or 10 years.
Okay,
So I'm sure they'll come back to you again when their budget changes.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
A big picture question, the projected reserves that we saw earlier in the presentation, did they assume this expenditure?
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
So the 2021 adopted budget over the 2020 adopted budget is about a 25% increase in total. If I did the math, 68,766 over 54,950. In light of the fact that those reserves, including these expenditures, are healthy, is there a lot of reason to scrutinize these on a line by line item?
That's a really good question. That's a philosophical conversation for you all.
Yeah. I mean, I think what we've always done is we've, where we felt we could and we should, we've pared these down to be in line in as much as we can in terms of kind of like a fairness level, and also to just make sure that we have a very comfortably flushed budget. You know, obviously what you're saying is that we already have that with the numbers as they are now. So we could go either way. I know the other one that was jumping out at me was the Colorado West Land Trust, jumping from 2,000 in 2019, 0 in 2020 to 5,000 in 2021. And while I seriously value the Colorado West Land Trust, I'm curious why they felt the need to bump their ask up that much, especially with 0 in 2020. I don't know, what's the feeling of council in terms of looking at these closer and making some tweaks? It's funny because Eric is usually the one who has the strongest opinion. In fact, in the text he sent me, he said he would, I don't know if it's appropriate since he's not here, but he thought that the second chance number was a little high. And that was the only thing he shared with me about the budget.
I think it is worth going through these because we have some groups that are in, a little bit more of survival mode. If I look at something like the Sherbino Theater, I think 2020 has been a particular hard hit on entertainment. I know it's going to be a hard hit on, places like Colorado West Land Trust that rely on donations, but my gut feeling is that they're probably not fighting for survival of the land trust at this moment. I'd be cool with, saying, let's keep them at 2,000 or even discussing from there. But I do think all of these organizations that have come to us asking for money are looking at their bottom line really carefully this year. And we're looking at revenues declining in the future. So we need to continue to look at our bottom line. So
Well,
I do.
I would add to that, that I would imagine that all of these organizations proposing these amounts are doing so knowing that we are likely under a budget pinch based upon COVID. So they're doing that with that in mind. The other thing I was going to mention is maybe we ought to focus more on those that are closer to home, so to speak, the ones that benefit the organizations which are more directly linked to our community rather than tangentially linked.
So Mayor, it's Preston, if I may,
Yep.
would it help if we just went one by one down this list? I don't think it's too long of a list, and it might,
Yeah.
if we just went one by one, I think you all could discuss and provide the direction you all end up.
I think
end
that's
up
good.
at.
And you have a request letter from each of these organizations in your packet.
No, thanks, Preston. I think that's a good idea rather than jumping around. So I'll just dive in right off the top. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Uncompahgre Volunteer Legal Aid, but they are a very important, they offer very important service to our residents and all throughout the Uncompahgre Valley. So I'm fine with that. And it's in line with what we've given them in the past. Anybody feel differently?
No.
Partners program, again, same number they've been asking for years. It's not a big number. I think we're okay with that, right?
Yep.
Then the land trust. I don't remember what their letter said. Did anybody have that? There it is.
Not super in depth.
I would suggest not cutting it, but maybe keeping it at our 2020 or the 2000 that we had in the past.
Or maybe even going up to 3.
Maybe at 3,000.
That's what I was going to say.
Okay, I can be fine with that.
Okay. All right, so we're talking about changing the Colorado West Land Trust number from 5 to 3. I'm assuming we're leaving Voyager and Juvenile Diversion at 7 and 8 respectively. We can leave the other contribution at 5,000 for now. We could potentially add 1,000 or 2 to that, depending on what else we might be able to cut, but I'll leave that for now.
You could use the delta from the previous cut on the Colorado West Land Trust and go from 5 to 8 just to keep the numbers the same at the moment.
3, 5 to 7, yeah. I think the KBNF number's good.
Yeah.
Anybody feel differently? Center for Mental Health is a nominal 500. I think that's absolutely minimum given what the kind of pressures they're probably seeing right now.
Yeah, is
Agreed.
that something we would want to consider maybe increasing just because of the benefit that they provide for?
I certainly would.
Me too.
I mean, especially considering 2020.
Exactly.
I think we have an unusual opportunity this year to maybe fund more and go back to old amounts later rather than like being like, this is a precedent for what you get forever. Normally, I feel like if you do that, it's like, this is what you're going to get. But I think we're in such an extenuating circumstance right now that.
So what
Yeah,
do we
oh,
do?
interesting. The Center for Mental Health letter says their request for 2021 is $489.
1,000? More? I don't know.
Why don't we double that exactly? So that would be 978.
Let's call it an even 1,000.
I like it.
Certainly deserving of it, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know, what's everybody's feeling about Second Chance and mean, again, they're a huge benefit to our community, but they also are a fundraising juggernaut.
Right.
You know, I don't consider them anywhere near struggling to survive. So, you know, I think I would probably advocate sticking to the 6,500 that we've given them in recent years, unless somebody feels differently.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
That was my gut feeling, John.
good.
I agree.
Same.
That was 6,500, right?
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Do we know anything about neighbor to neighbor as to why they?
I didn't receive anything from them. And you know what, John, we didn't receive anything from them last year, but council put the $1,000 in there based on prior years.
It looks like we put 1,000 in for 2019, but we did not for 2020. It looks like.
Yeah. But I don't think we've heard anything from them for a few years.
Well, if we do, I suppose we can pull out other contributions. I think the Erie County Housing Advisory Committee is kind of in limbo right now, so that's. Although I will say,
If I remember correctly, council decided during the 2020 budget discussions that they would not use this line item, and those funds would now go into the line item we have in the budget on page 2, I believe,
for affordable,
for the affordable housing. So
that makes sense.
I was looking at that. I cannot, by state statute, remove a line item until there is no expenditures shown in the audited numbers. But I was thinking that next year that that line would probably be removed.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, so that takes us to Eco Action Partners. Again,
I can share a little insight on that increase, I think. Two things. One is they have a cyclical funding mechanism that this year they're blanked out of, to the tune of like $25,000 they're losing. That, and with Jake's leaving, they're looking at filling 2 positions to replace him. So they're trying to become more of a sustainable organization, a little bit more of a, some sort of a rock solid organization rather than being so dependent on an annual budget cycle. So that's just kind of generic input for what it's worth.
okay, well, what's interesting, I'm looking at their letter in the request for funding document 03, and it says 5,000.
Yeah, I saw that too.
And then it's their green light program. They have another letter in there for the green light program.
Green light program is the 1,200. And I'm curious, I heard from Dave Jones, who reported to me that he recently was walking around town hall and discovered that a whole bunch of our lights have not been turned over to LEDs as we thought they had. And is that at all relate to that 1,200 green lights program, or is that separate?
I can also add some color to that. The Green Lights program is essentially or primarily funded through Tri-State, which is, our G&T. And this is the last year they're providing rebates for LEDs. So they're trying to capitalize on that and keep the Green Lights program alive for this calendar year.
So,
Which-
Mayor, in short,
Yeah.
that has nothing to do with Dave coming in here and checking out the LEDs. He came in here with Ryan.
No.
Ben
Not
West, yeah.
Ryan.
Yeah, they were in here last week and they gave me a tour of all the lights and it was really interesting. And so that's separate.
It was done through Rock.
Okay.
They were here.
Now, the lights that they identified, if they're replaced, would be eligible for rebates through the Green Lights program. So the Green Lights funding is independent of their request. Their request is to help manage that
Gotcha.
program as opposed to the funds that go into it.
Gotcha. Okay. So what's everybody's feeling about that 6,200 number? I'd say, I guess I'm okay with it. Especially, sounds like it
Okay.
might back to 5,000 next year.
Yeah, exactly.
The student scholarship is fine. We can leave that at 1,000. Public Art Ridgway stays at 3,000. Looks like we're zeroing out the COP MOBA line item.
I did not receive a letter from them.
Okay. But they did collect the 1,000 that we budgeted for 2020.
Yes, they
Okay.
did request it.
Seems like they requested that in person last year rather than via letter.
Right. Okay, well, again, that's the kind of thing we can pull out of other contributions if we need to. Unless anybody thinks we should just go ahead and plug 1,000 back into that line. Knowing we'll probably hear from them again.
I think if we're budgeting 5 for other, should be fine.
Okay. You still might be able to bump that some. UWP, again, staying right at the 3,000 that it has been for years. I think that's okay. The Gardner Scholarship Fund is a good steady 1,000. Soccer Association back up to $3,000 this year. What do we think? I suppose I'm
Healthy outdoor activity.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense. That's what we've been doing. And last year was their weird one, where we were dealing with the pavilion.
okay. I'm fine with leaving that as it is. I won't weigh in on the Sherbino because again, I'm on the board there, but you guys can weigh in on whether or not you think that number is good or not.
I'm okay with that myself. For what it's worth.
Yep.
Yeah,
They provided a pretty valuable service to the community during this COVID thing.
Yeah, their efforts on the patio were some of my most normal moments of the summer, as unnormal as it was.
Only it's for me.
Well, I don't know if I can call those normal, but they were as close as it got.
I mean, I think venues like this are closing all over the country, and if we can hold on to the Sherbino, that's very much to the good of the town. So yeah, I'm strongly inclined to meet this for sure.
Okay, sounds good. And then lastly, the CAIC, Steph is suggesting, Steph and I both, I guess, we're suggesting maybe dropping that to $2,000 from 2,500.
2 sounds good.
And again, I don't think we have to feel tied to that in the future. I just know if you've been in any of the MAC group meetings, there's a lot of concern about backcountry recreation this year as a response to COVID. So I think supporting, they're going to do lots of social media stuff that, we can piggyback on locally to keep people safe.
Well, it
I'd
also looks
almost
like
say-
oh, go ahead, Tessa.
I'd almost say leave it at 2,500. It's like a pinch of prevention is a pound of cure, rather than spending thousands to send people out to rescue and having COVID exposure there. But 2 is also great.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that, especially I'm looking at their letter, their request letter, and it says they're requesting 2,500 to support a new weather station.
Oh, cool.
Sweet.
Well, that's just nerdy cool.
Located in
Better be solar powered.
So Mayor Clark,
sorry,
Um,
what?
you skipped the Uray County Food Pantry and Weehawken Creative Arts.
And for some reason, your volume is sort of cutting in and out.
Yeah, I know we have problems hearing you sometimes too. So I just was noting that you had skipped over the food pantry and Weehawken.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah,
That's okay. So I didn't receive a letter from the food pantry this year, and we didn't receive one last year either.
gotcha. I think I skipped over that because it was 0 and I didn't look and see what it was about. Food Pantry's been doing an amazing job this year, but I know they've also just had outpouring of support as well. So I'm open, and I skipped over Weehawken because I thought that 3,000 was, especially since they asked for 3,500 last year, that 3,000 is totally fine by me, but I didn't mean to skip over them. Anybody have comments or questions about those?
I like the idea of supporting the food pantry, but if they're not asking for it, I'm not sure how you manage that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's one of those things, especially where we're at and going into winter, and the financial hardships are definitely going to get worse again. I know that with dropping the second chance number and dropping the land trust number, are you guys keeping a running tally? I think we're probably $2 or $3 grand ahead of what our total originally was at this point.
Yeah, at least.
Mhm.
Maybe more. Let's see, 6,500 instead of 10,566. That gives us 4,066 extra. And with land trust, we said 3, so instead of 5, so that takes us to 6,066 over. Have we cut anything else? I don't think so. Did we increase? We increased the mental health to 1,000, so that takes us to 5,566. Are my numbers right?
Correct, you're correct.
So we're 5,500 ahead of that bottom line of 68,766. So I suggest we definitely put in 1,000 for the food pantry again. Everybody okay with that?
I'm good with that.
Can I suggest that we take that positive balance and flip it into the other contributions for things that may emerge during the next few months?
I think that makes good sense. So that would bring our other contributions number up to like 9,566, I think.
Right.
Mhm.
You'd like me to make that 9,500?
Or whatever is the balance of all the in and outs.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean,
So keeping the total the same essentially.
yeah,
So
I understand.
9,500 makes it, instead of a $66 balance in there, it gives us a more even number, but whatever. Pam, you can figure it out. Okay, I think we're done on that. Is that right?
Yes,
so.
thank you.
We good? Okay.
Were there any other questions on the budget or on the capital improvement projects?
Not from me. I felt like everything looked really good.
Great.
just a comment, having this being my first time through the process, kudos to you, Pam, and the staff for putting all this together. It's pretty intense.
Yeah, Pam does an amazing job. No question. So that just leaves the few items still in yellow, but I'm guessing those will be resolved soon.
So yeah, that's correct, Mayor. So that leaves kind of the last item on the formal agenda, the strategic plan. Is that okay with you all if we transition to that?
Yeah.
Sure.
So I don't have a major presentation really prepared for the strategic plan, and updated this document obviously for fiscal year 2021. Things did fall off of the document, year over year, just based on completing many of them. And then a lot of them carried over as well. And then you'll see some new strategies and priorities that have been added based on conversations with you all over the last month and a half, a little bit longer than that, and just stuff that's popped up. So yeah, before you is obviously the draft 2021 strategic plan organized by community value. yeah, so all 5 of them, the first one being healthy natural environment, second one, sense of community and inclusivity, third one, small town character and identity, fourth one, vibrant and balanced economy, and then number 5, well-managed growth. I'll be honest, at times with some of these priorities or strategies, whatever you want to call them, it's a bit challenging to figure out which community value they fit under. So if you all see any that you think need to be moved or addressed in some way, let me know. So during the budget retreat, I presented a progress report for the 2020 strategic plan. Hopefully you all had a chance to kind of go through that and see where we're at with a bunch of that stuff. And obviously that progress report helped inform this draft. I think it'd take a while to go one by one through this document. We can absolutely do that if you all say the word, but it's not slated for adoption tonight. A suggestion, if you all didn't want to go through this line by line, is allow a free for all, kind of like we were just doing with these council initiatives, for you all to just throw out your thoughts on various line items, or you all could take some time to digest this document if you haven't had a chance to kind of look thoroughly through it already, and then kind of maybe reach out to me with your thoughts, edits, concerns, what have you. And then obviously we have another chance on December 9th to review this and maybe talk it through a little bit before adoption. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
What's everybody's feeling? I don't think we need to go through it item by item tonight. Has everyone had enough of a chance to go through it to have any specific comments or questions about any of the specific items? Like Preston said, is there anything that jumped out at you that maybe needed to be moved to a different strategy, different value?
There's one item that just caught my attention as something I don't understand. It's the explore the feasibility of becoming a certified local government. What does that reference? Is there more detail on that?
Yeah.
That's a really good question. Preston, can you tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So that is, and Shay and or Deidre might be able to help me out too if I butcher the explanation, but that's a carryover from the 2020 strategic plan. And the state has I think it's a state in one of those departments has a program for communities to become a certified local government. I think you all know now, I met with Patrick O'Leary about a month ago to talk about the jail. And he very interested in the town, expressed his interest in the town pursuing that designation to become a certified local government. Obviously for him, it would come with some tax, or it would provide him some really good funding opportunities, some tax benefits. It's based on kind of my foundational understanding of the program. It's a little bit rigorous. I mean, there's definitely some criteria we have to hit and some deliverables on our end. For example, we would have to have a standing historic preservation committee or something of the sort in order to maintain that designation. But I see Deidre just unmuted, so she's probably going to say that is not right at all. So
No, that was
want one.
accurate. That was totally accurate, Preston. I was just going to add a couple things to it. Yeah, the state, some sort of committee related to Historic Preservation Commission is usually what it is in other communities. And it is something strongly encouraged through the Main Street program. We haven't pursued it in the past because basically, we don't have a lot of historic buildings, but, compared to other places, but we do have some. And as they get older, becoming a CLG allows for funding. It allows us to locally designate the buildings that we believe should be recognized. So it's not necessarily going through the full state process, but actually being able to locally designate them, and then being able to actually provide funds through state coffers because we're a CLG. So it brings in some additional funds for historic preservation that have been very valuable in other communities, but you're absolutely correct, Preston, that there is some work involved in it. And Shay may know more than I do because she was involved with this at the state level too. So I don't know if Shay, you want to add anything?
No, I think that's a great summary, but if there's specific questions or something, I can try to answer.
Well, it sounds like there's a pretty decent ROI on that effort, I guess, depending on how much, overhead there is associated with forming those committees.
Would this be something we'd be able to use to go after grant funding to get all of Pam's cool documents digitized and preserved?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
But I guess I'm not sure what
One
cool
time.
documents you're talking about.
I don't know. Pam was telling me one time about all the cool stuff she has in her safe and how she wishes we could like make sure it was all like properly taken care of. And
Like historic stuff.
it's always like in the back of my mind, like, how can we do that?
Yeah, that's a
don't-
good question. I think the CLG program is more about structures and things like that.
Correct.
I was just refreshing my mind, my memory. I know we've talked about it on and off for several years. What I found some links both to Colorado's CLG program that's under History Colorado, and then there's a national CLG webpage that is under the auspices of the National Park Service, interestingly. I could send these couple of links around to everybody so you can educate yourself. But, I have always felt like it was something that when the time and the resources are available to pursue it, we probably should. I think it's more about like Deidre said, we don't have that many historic structures, but we do have some key ones, the old bank building, Heron House, things like that. To a certain extent, the Charbonneau and Colorado Boy building. Those are all buildings that could eventually get some pretty serious help with any renovations or shoring up kinds of things, I believe.
And I believe it's commercial and residential historic buildings.
Okay, cool. So does that answer your question, Terry?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it might even be a source of funds eventually to help relocate the jail. Maybe.
Well,
Well,
we're in a little more of a
Well,
Time
Patrick.
crunch.
can do that.
timeline.
Yeah,
But those-
Patrick
Those kinds
needs
of,
to move it, and he's willing to pay to have it moved. So I think that's maybe if it has to get moved a second time. We can do that.
but it's those kinds of initiatives that it might benefit.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Anything else jump out at anybody?
Is there a way to guarantee we're gonna have music in the park next year? Where's that line item?
I'm really hopeful. I think with the vaccines looking so promising, I'm really hopeful.
I heard an interview with the Pfizer guy today, and he was saying they're applying for emergency use authorization tomorrow.
Oh. I can't remember which one. There's Pfizer and Moderna that are the two that are leading the charge right now. Which one is the super refrigerated
Pfizer.
Pfizer? So the
The
Moderna,
thing is, Pfizer says they have capacity for 25 million doses this year. Moderna is another 30 million. So it's really going to be a combination of both. So hopefully with some federal government orchestration, we can use Pfizer in urban areas and get Moderna out to more isolated places.
Beth, you said 25 million this year, like 2020 or 20?
Yep. They said that was the interview that I heard today.
Wow.
Kevin, maybe we can offer the vaccines in Kool-Aid at the back of the
Those
conference.
ones, the reason why is those two have already been making vaccine, assuming it was going to be good. So they've been making it and setting it aside.
that's the mind-boggling thing. The government actually gave them money to make the vaccines before they knew whether they were going to work or not.
That's quite a gamble.
Mind-boggling. But if it works,
I mean, that's what government's supposed to do. Like, that's what they're like, federal government, we can deficit spend. Here's
Yeah.
millions.
We can print
but
money.
spending that money on a potential virus, a vaccine that might not work is frightening, but it was a gamble that looks like it's going to pay off. So,
There was some political motivations in there too.
so it sounds to me like maybe what we should do is everybody commit to doing their homework before the December meeting. Come to that prepared to have a quick discussion about the strategic plan and any specifics that we want to tweak. Again, I don't think we need to take the time to go through it item by item, but if we've all really done our homework and looked at it closely, we should be prepared to recommend minor tweaks. I think it's really close as it is right now, I'd say. So does that sound good to everybody?
Yep, I can do that.
Okay. Sound good to you, Preston?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So that I think leads us to, thank you very much for all that.
Let me stop you for just a second. I realized just based on the agenda, I didn't offer public comment on the budget itself before moving on to the next items. So I know we don't have a giant number of public here on the call, but if anybody does have any questions or comments about the budget, now's the time to ask. Make sure I give you the opportunity. Hopefully everybody knows how to raise their hand. We're all Zoom experts now, right?
More than we wanted to be.
What's that?
More than we wanted to be.
More than we wanted to be. That's good. Like so many things about 2020. All right, so I'm not seeing any hands up. So take it away, Preston, to the next item.
Yeah, so just the next one is the Coronavirus Relief Fund, our spending plan. So someone holler when you can see my screen.
Holler.
There you go.
Okay, so like I was telling you at the forefront, we need to communicate, or everybody really needs to communicate their spending plan to DOLA by, I think it's end of day tomorrow. The spending plan needs to include the amount that will not be spent by December 30th. And then DOLA is telling us that they'll work with us on next steps to, the word they're using is deobligate or potentially reallocate funds, because I've been told that that's an option, is reallocating to something that of our choosing, and make them available for use by other recipients. So again, this is kind of something I've put together, like a draft spending plan. A lot of it was really in place, but definitely want your all's input on some of these items. So at the top here, I don't know if you can see my cursor, just north of $80,000 was our total allocation. So far, we've requested reimbursement, and that reimbursement has been processed for $5,277. And you all have seen, I think in a couple council meetings ago, all those expenditures that make up that $5,000. A lot of remote working capability, technology, hand sanitizer, PPE, outdoor hand sanitizer stations, those just to highlight that $5,000 amount. That leaves $75,000 remaining on our balance. So I'm scrolling down a little bit. This is essentially the plan I've put together. Again, want your all's input on it. The first line item is that bulk PPE order that we're working with the county on. We've committed $10,000 at this point, nice round number. The next one is our contribution for the development of the economic resiliency plan that EPS is putting together. That's just north of $16,000. We've ordered 500 masks and 500 mini hand sanitizers with the Ridgway logo. Actually really cool. I'm looking forward to getting that. The hand sanitizers are cool. They're bigger than the Uray County Cares ones are, and they have a little carabiner. So looking forward to getting those and distributing to you all and everybody else. Looking at some IT needs and proposing some additional laptops, and this is in line with what the council discussion has been. But laptops for staff members to use when working remotely. 2 more outdoor hand sanitizing stations. I don't know if you've ventured into the park here in Hartwell recently, but there's some really large outdoor hand sanitizer stations that I think are being very well received and well used. Have 2 of them deployed in Hartwell Park, and we're thinking we'll purchase 2 more of those to put over in the athletic park. Obviously, when it's not cold outside. Another VPN license. I think this one's for Chase's computer. The next 3 is what I'm seeking input on. That $5,000 for additional PPE and potential business initiatives. That's kind of a wild guess, just a round number in case we do need more PPE in the next couple of weeks, or in case anybody has any ideas on furthering our efforts to help the business community. The next 2 are kind of interesting. They've come up recently. Bear with me as I try to explain this winter outdoor dining grant program. But I learned today, and Mayor, I'm wondering if you got a similar email from CML or a letter from CML. But the Colorado Restaurant Foundation is partnering with the state on this outdoor dining grant program. Private funds are being raised to distribute grants to eligible restaurants towards designing and building their outdoor winter dining spaces. The funds can be used towards design, construction, applicable fees, supplies, and these grants are going to be distributed directly through the Colorado Restaurant Foundation, which is a not 501c3 nonprofit. The really interesting thing about this is that they're providing the opportunity for municipalities that have available CARES Act funding to participate in this program by directly distributing some of their remaining funds from this coronavirus relief fund program to the Colorado Restaurant Foundation. Then they'll set, so if any municipality likes to do that, they'll set up a restricted fund that'll be set up for the restaurants in their area. So if the town of Ridgway wanted to donate, in this case, we have $25,000 here. 25,000 here. It would be earmarked specifically for restaurants in our area if they were to apply for that grant through the Colorado Restaurant Foundation. Does that make sense?
I think so, yeah. And I think I did get the same email as you this morning, but it was amidst a flurry of emails.
Yeah, and I think it's, I think it was, it almost seemed like it was not spur of the moment, but like very short term in the making, and they kind of just do this together. I mean, I think it's it may be a really good opportunity. Obviously, this is specific to restaurants, but maybe it could go a long way. So curious to know what you all think about that, but I'll kind of finish here. The last item is a reallocation to the city of Ouray for some of the issues they're having at their facilities. I've had a number of conversations with Melissa Drake and Connie Hunt about this coronavirus relief fund in our respective allotments. The city of Ouray has used up all their funding. Ouray County is well on their way, but it sounds like Ouray County will have some left over, to the best of my knowledge. And Melissa, again, we've talked on the phone several times, and to be candid, they're wondering if the town would be amenable or willing to have some of our allotment reallocated to them, which according to Patrick Rondinelli and DOLA is completely fine. And in all honesty, again, just being candid here, in my eye, I would feel much more comfortable having it reallocated to a jurisdiction in our region than, and it almost feels awful to say out loud, but reallocated to a jurisdiction in our region instead of somewhere on the Front Range, for example. So that's the impetus for this last item, because all of this adds up to $75,013.41, which I think my computer is frozen. There we go. That's the balance.
Incredible coincidence that worked out. So I have a couple quick questions. Are we shortchanging ourselves with the 3 laptops and the 1 VPN license? Because those are pretty valuable commodities to have in terms of going forward. That's question one. In other words, is 5,000 enough for the 3 laptops? And do we need more than, should we have 1 VPN license for each of those laptops?
Yeah, good question. You know, I think based on the laptops we bought earlier, I guess it would have been in late spring, early summer. Pam is crunching some numbers, so.
I can
Oh,
smell
they're 18.
smoke.
Oh, so actually we would probably,
We need the VPNs.
so 5,400.
54.
So Pam's saying 5,400 will cover the 3 laptops and 3 additional VPNs.
I think that's a good point, Jerry. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, thanks.
The other question is, could you make a miscellaneous category to cover any of the slop and some of those, you know, like you've got masks down to the penny. Of course, that may be to make the numbers equal, but do you need a?
No, yeah, the masks and hand sanitizer was like the charge. So, but what I heard you kind of suggest, Terry, was kind of just a miscellaneous in the event something comes up.
A slop fund to make up the differences in some of those estimates.
That was kind of the thought with the third bullet from the bottom, additional PPE orders and potential business initiatives. I probably should have been a little more clear, but have $5,000 for that. So that was the thought.
That's what I was thinking too. And, you know, I'd be open to bumping that number a little bit. Not that I'm trying to take anything out of Uray's pocket, but I do think we need to make sure that we have as much as we might need. And I think it's cool that we might be able to help you with their shortfall. And I like your point about keeping the money in the county, but let's make sure that we are being realistic about what our needs are so that we don't end up feeling like we wish we kept some of that.
Can we kick some money to the chamber if they wanted to do like a Discover Pass like Chaffey County?
Good question.
I'm with you. Like, I don't want to shortchange Uray, but I also want to make sure that wanting to support our community as much as we can with the dollars we were allotted.
Also, was the distribution to Winter Outdoor Dining Grant Program, was that a specific number or was that an arbitrary number in that that's the largest budget item targeted to a pretty narrow sector?
Yeah, completely arbitrary.
Maybe we could give 20 to them or something like that and pull that 5 into the general or send it to the chamber for some COVID safe business development that isn't specific to one industry. I don't know if that's possible, but.
Changing
Like this whole
25 to
Discover
20.
Pass was things like, Blue Corn could be like $2 off a candle or something. Like it was just trying to get people to patronize.
Shop local.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so
I would agree with Tesla that maybe lowering the 25 to 20 and putting the extra 5 into essentially the miscellaneous fund for some squish here and there.
And I'm supportive of that, and the money for the Winter Outdoor Dining Grant. I think that's a great idea, but we also probably need to get a little bit of information from our shops in town and see who's actually got an interest in that, because a lot of stuff I've heard, the restaurants are looking at that kind of negatively. Just what's the appeal to eating outside when your food's cold?
Can I say something?
Joint policy group too. Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, Deidre.
I did send an email out. I'm not familiar with the CML email that came out today or this specific grant program, but I did send an email out, I believe it was last week, or maybe the week before, to all the restaurants, showing them, I think it was 6 design concepts that came out of a charrette that the state, no, I think it was the Colorado Restaurant Association organized. And I sent it to all the restaurants just to see, it's like, you never know who's interested. And I didn't get much of a response except from one restaurant who was like definitely excited about it. So, we may have one restaurant that's considering it, maybe more, I don't know. Sometimes when one says I'm interested, then somebody else might be, but it wasn't specific to this grant. So I agree with you, Russ. I think having some information from particularly the restaurants on this one would be useful to know.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. And if that in particular, we don't get a response back from the restaurants that that's what they're interested in, we can potentially shift some of that money over to the potential business initiatives line item there and kind of go back and play off of what Glenn Boyd and Unified Command has done and having those meetings with the businesses to understand what they need. And there were some initiatives and that we've talked about some, and we could maybe kind of direct it there in case they're not interested in this. I like the idea of this, but if they're not interested, do what we can to help support those guys.
Yeah, I agree, because it's very targeted. And it's the largest budget item in there.
Unfortunately, I think that we're up against a deadline of tomorrow, aren't we, Preston, for
Yeah.
submitting this document?
Right.
Well, can we just shift, for example, 5,000 out of that into the business initiatives, the line above it? Just to give it a little more buffer in that one pot?
So you're, so Terry putting 10,000 in the business initiatives line item and leaving 20 in the winter outdoor dining grant program.
Correct.
Correct. And then bumping the 3 laptops item to 5,400.
Again, maybe taking it out of the dining grant program.
No, we're taking that out of the, well, I was thinking we were just the URA, not, I want this to go.
Oh, I see, yeah.
No. It's not taking from Uray, it's that we need it, and then we will give Uray our balance.
There you go. Yeah, that version of it.
Don't want anybody to think that we're not completely supportive of URA's needs, if we can help, if we have extra, but we just want to make sure that our needs are covered as well. So is that enough direction on that, Preston?
Yes, sir. So just to recap, laptops to 5,400, the dining program, 20,000, and then what I think I'll characterize as the miscellaneous business initiatives line item, 10,000.
Correct. And whatever balance that leaves for the reallocation to URA.
I think you're.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay.
Yeah, there's a $400 gap there. That would have to come out of.
Drop the reallocation to city URA down to like just below 10 grand. Right?
Yeah, making it 9,971.40.
Thank you, Terry.
My math serves me.
That's it. Thank you all very much. Unless you all have any final thoughts or other direction, I think that's good. And John, I'll copy you on the email to Patrick with our spending plan.
Okay, great. All right, anything else? Does that bring us to the end of the agenda here? I think it does.
Yes, sir.
All right, anybody in the audience have any last minute questions, comments? Make sure you get a chance to weigh in. Seeing none and saying that unless I hear an objection, I'm ready to adjourn the meeting. Thanks, everybody.
I wish everybody
Thank you, everybody.
a safe,
you.
lonely holiday.
Yeah,
Well, we do have a policy group meeting next Wednesday
Oh, so
to kick off the holiday.
yeah. Just for fun. Okay, thanks, everybody.
Okay.
good night.
Great to see you all.
Thanks, Preston. Pam, hey. Thanks
Bye,
to you,
guys.
Preston.
Bye,
Bye,
Tessa. I
Preston.
miss you.
Miss you. Zoom
Bye,
Best
hug.
of luck and hugs to you.
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah. It's great to see your faces or hear your voices, and yeah, be well, y'all.
Thanks again for all
See you,
your
Tessa.
input and hard work for us. Thank you.
Bye, Tessa.
Bye. Been an honor.
Good night, everybody.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Night.